Welcome along to the show. I am today joined by Boise. He's going to be a regular on my show. Many of you will have seen Boise over on TikTok, and he's often on my YouTube channel as well at Football Martin. Boise, a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Martin. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. 3 parts to today's show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are going to be looking back on Brighton and Hove Albion. We're then going to be looking ahead to the game against Chelsea this Wednesday at St Mary's. And then we're also going to be looking at all the latest Saints news. So much to cram in this evening, Boise. But I want to start with Brighton and Hove Albion, Friday night, down at the Amex Stadium. Saints walk away with a 1-1 draw. What were your thoughts on this one, mate?
Any other season, any other time, that's a really good point away from home, especially with how Brighton are flying so high at the moment, after that result up to second place. You'd be silly to think that any Saints fan would be disappointed in leaving the Amex with only a point. Unfortunately, because of the circumstances surrounding that result, it felt like a loss. It felt like we should have left there with all 3 points. It felt like we should have been closer to the rest of the packs, if you will. And unfortunately, and we'll get onto it, I'm sure, because of some very dodgy decisions once again, we left with a point, and it just feels quite disappointing, for me anyway.
Yeah, it does feel really disappointing. I thought the second half was a really spirited performance. I've said a lot across all my platforms this week. I did a TikTok video on it, and I said that I felt the second half they showed some real fight, some real togetherness. Almost a little bit too aggressive in the second half because Downs has picked up a booking and Taylor Harwood-Bellis along with Tyler Dibbling as well. Did you think the same, that there was a spirited second half there? The players are really playing for Russell, aren't they?
They are, most definitely. I think you're absolutely right. I think first half of that second half, especially, when we came out and Flynn Downs got us back on level terms, and immediately from then, normally it's very typical of us this season to score a goal and then switch off and maybe concede down the other end. We didn't do that. We carried on and brought, as you say, even more intensity, maybe a bit too much at times. And it was great to see that. And those players are definitely playing for the manager. I don't think there's any doubt about that. To put in that sort of performance after going a goal behind against a great team like Brighton, if they're not playing for him, then I don't know what they're doing,
Yeah, the shape changed definitely as well. I was pleased to see Adam Armstrong play a little bit closer to Cameron Archer. I did like the two because he almost pretty much went with a two up top. Jack Stevens sat in the middle of the centre backs, and he drifted into midfield, didn't he, a lot. Him and Harwood-Bellis, I thought they both had quite a solid game, actually. Jack Stevens comes under a lot of criticism throughout our fan base, but I actually think he's had 2 solid games actually against Liverpool, and certainly at the Amex overnight, I thought he played well. Some really good interceptions as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I think I totally agree with what you're saying about Stevens. Comes under a lot of fire from fans when he's the most experienced centre back at the club right now. He's got the most Premier League experience out of any defender in the team right now. And I thought he put in a really solid performance. I think him in the middle of that central 3 is his best position because we know he's good with his feet. We know he likes to, in this system under Russell Martin, drift into the midfield, which can sometimes be a bit of a detriment, but he's comfortable doing that. So I think if you play him in that position, you'll get the best out of Jack Stevens. And obviously having a confident Harwood-Bellis next to him, and then hopefully very soon Jan Bednarek as well. That's a solid back 3. That's 3 really solid defenders. And, I just think that confidence will grow and we'll get even, hopefully, just more solid at the back, building out.
Yeah, no, I do. There's a bit of a hybrid formation going on where Carl Walker-Peters goes and sits in and plays at centre-back. I don't think he looks that comfortable doing it. But second half, when Walker-Peters went and played at fullback, I thought he looked far more comfortable. He started the start of the second half at left back, he ended up at right back in the end once Yuki COYR went off. But I actually liked it. I thought we looked a lot better as the game went. I think there's some positivity to take out of it. I know it was just the 1 point on the board, and a lot of people feel really downbeat because of the circumstances, and we need to talk about it. VAR. It was another big decision that went against Southampton. Gary Lineker was on Match of the Day, Boise, at the weekend, and he said that he totally agreed with Russell Martin's post-match interview that he gave to the press. He agreed that Adam Armstrong cannot affect the impact of the goalkeeper. He cannot cause the goalkeeper any problem where he was. Do you think it was just the fact that he flicked his heel that they give it? If he didn't flick his heel, do you think he would have got away with it?
Mate, honestly, really, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think back to that decision, and I'm still trying to get my head around how they've ruled that out. I think it's ridiculous. I think, yes, if he doesn't try and move his leg out of the way or flick it or whatever, yes, maybe it's given. But Bartova doesn't even move. He's not thrown off by Adam Armstrong at all. He doesn't move at all. So how referees aren't looking at that and thinking, okay, let's, he's not been distracted. But then for it to go to this 3.5, 4, however long minute wait, when they're drawing up all these lines that don't work half the time, and then for that to be given as offside, I think it's ridiculous. I haven't moaned about the refs a lot this season, but I'll moan about that because that is ridiculous. We should be leaving with 3 points because of that.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Russell Martin said in his press conference, which took place, it was a little bit earlier. I actually thought it was going to be Tuesday, but it took place on Monday down at St Mary's. I've watched it in full. I've listened to it in full, including the extra bit for the 10:30. And he said that they've spoken to Howard Webb, and he really likes Howard Webb. He's got a lot of respect for him and the way that he deals with it. But he said that sometimes you can hear back the footage, and they listen back to the footage, and they're calling each other mate. And he said he didn't like it. He felt it needed to be more professional. I totally agree with him. I totally agree with what he said. And I thought Martin conducted himself fairly well post-match, certainly across Sky Sports and the interviews and Match Day. I thought he dealt with it quite well because it could have been easy just to literally go off on one. But he did show a bit of maturity there, didn't he? I thought he did well with it.
Yeah, totally. Especially, I think immediately after the game when they brought him out, and it was Steve Sidwell and Izzy Christensen, I think. And one of the first things they spoke about was that decision. And I think he handled himself really well there. This is the guy who's under severe pressure, from fans, from pundits, the minute he's walked into this league. And it'll be very easy for him, I think, after that sort of decision to just lose his rag, say some silly things, that he's been guilty of maybe a couple of times, you can argue, in the past. But I think he's handled himself really well. And that's why he's got my backing. Obviously, results need to improve. But I think his conduct, how he's managed himself over these past year and a bit or whatever, I think he's a real example. I really do.
Yeah, it's a tough job to be in. I think any Premier League job's tough. But certainly if you're in a club that's just been promoted, it's just the gaps in the league is massive. He's got a philosophy that he wants to stick to as well. And the players are very well embedded into that as well. So all in all, it's really difficult all round. We will do a show and we will talk about recruitment another day. I think that's probably a conversation for another day. But wrapping up on Brighton, I've gone through the statistics on it, and actually the possession in the game, Brighton had more of it. They had 52 compared to our 48, not loads in it. They had more goal attempts than us, 22 compared to the 10. Just 2 shots on target for us. We do need to be better at getting shots on target, in my opinion. It's something I've been saying for a while. Got to give a shout out, I feel, on the show today to Joe Lumley, who stepped in Boise and played in goal. I thought he'd done well, other than giving it away once. I thought he come in and done really, really well, Joe Lumley. It was a steady performance from him in a big moment.
It was definitely. The thing I liked most about what Lumley was doing was, just if there was ever any doubt in his head, as you say, he gave the ball away early on, maybe once or twice. But then from that point, any doubt in his head, he was just wafting it upfield. And us as Saints fans haven't seen that for ages, because it's all about playing out from the back. Ramsdale with his feet, playing to one of his 3 or 2 centre-backs. And Lumley was just taking no prisoners. And that's what you've got to do, for him. I mean, what a moment. Premier League debut, and he's put in a really solid performance, I think. And, if Alex McCarthy is a doubt for Chelsea, which I believe he is, I feel more comfortable having Lumley in goal than McCarthy. And I think that's just I think that's a crazy statement almost. If you would have said that to me after the playoff final, I probably would have laughed. But, now it's like, yeah, I back Lumley. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I do. I back Joe. I hope he keeps his place. I think he's given Russell a headache if Alex is fit for the Wednesday night game against
Yeah.
Chelsea. We'll come on to Chelsea very shortly. But before we come on to Chelsea, just a few words on Brighton, Boise. I thought they were good first half. I'm going to get your opinion on it. I thought they played really well first half. They could have been 2 or 3-0 up. I thought Matoma was a real handful off that left-hand side. He did cause us lots of problems. He's a very, very good player. I've been down to the Amex a few times and I've seen him play, and I think he's a very good player. Welbeck is just feels like he's been around a lifetime, but very, very good still, isn't he? He's still mobile. He gets his head on things. I think they're in for a very good season. To you, they've obviously started really well. They're in a great position in the division at the moment, sort of top head of the table. That they went second the other night, and they're still in that top four. Do you feel it's a big season for them? Do you think they get a European spot this season?
Honestly, why not? I think I coming into this season, especially appointing Fabian Herzler, youngest manager in the Premier League, 30 or 31, I think, I put them to not struggle like to be relegated, but I did put them down in that kind of 13th to 15th sort of realm. And I eaten my humble pie on the side, like fair play. They really proved me wrong. And, I think that's a really solid team. As you've just named a few people there, Matoma down that left, Danny Welbeck has been around forever, but he seems to almost be getting better, which is crazy to say, and coming off the back of some bad injuries. I'd like to give a mention to Matt O'Reilly. I thought he was everywhere in that game. I thought he looked really solid. Obviously, a player that we were being linked with in the summer, which would have been interesting if he had come. But there's players of quality littered all over that pitch, the goalkeeper even. And if they keep it up, teams like, United, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Newcastle, they don't want to get top 6 at the moment, it looks like. They keep losing and throwing points away. So if they're going to be doing that, then there's absolutely no reason why a team like Brighton, good football, good manager, good culture, no reason why they can't get European football.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they go on and do well. The only thing I would say about the Amex is the stadium is really flat on Friday. I've got to talk about it because I was really surprised, and fans were like 1-1. The fans were leaving with like 8-9 minutes of normal time to go. Really? It was like they were expected to win. They expected to beat Southampton, and when they scored, it felt like a pre-season friendly. They did. It was like, oh yeah, we've scored. It was a really strange atmosphere. Maybe a little bit was it disrespectful? Maybe, I don't know. But football fans, it's a funny place to go and watch football sometimes. Right, we need to move on to Chelsea very shortly. But before I do move on to Chelsea, I just want to give a massive shout out to a new way of listening to football, Martin. You may already be tuned in. My content is now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also Amazon Podcasts as well. Obviously on YouTube, as you may be watching it there. But you can now download me. You can listen to the Football Martin channel on the move. So if you haven't done so already, head over to one of those platforms. Make sure you give me a follow and download the latest content. Plenty coming your way over the remainder of this season. Boise will be a regular on the Football Martin channel. So make sure you do go check out the Football Martin podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a little barcode on the left-hand side of your screen. Give it a scan and head over to Spotify and give me a follow. Right, Chelsea, Boise comes up. At the time of recording, it's Tuesday night. We're around about 24 hours away from Southampton, Chelsea. Chelsea have started the season really well, haven't they? I think they've probably surprised a lot of people this season so far. Enzo Maresca knows Russell Martin very well from his time in the Championship last season. Got the better of him twice. Has a 9-1 aggregate, I think, against Southampton last season, if I'm right in saying. A few thoughts on Enzo Maresca, boys. He's done a really good job, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done a brilliant job. Thing that concerns me is that, as you say there, he had a 9-1 aggregate in the Championship last season with those players. He's gone to this Chelsea team and he's got Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson, Noni Madueke at his disposal. I mean, we were talking before we came on earlier on, actually, that we haven't had a bad performance result yet. Like,
Yeah, we haven't
I
been
don't know,
taken
man.
apart by anyone yet, have we?
We haven't. But I just feel like Chelsea at the moment, they're flying. They've got all these great young potential players. Not even potential, like they're just becoming in the present incredible now. And as you say,
Mm.
Maresca has got RM's number, and we're going to need to really bring our A game. And it doesn't help that we're missing two certainly, but three of our probably first names on the team sheet this season. So it's a fearful one,
Yeah, yeah.
but you never know.
He has big issues. He has big issues, doesn't he? Because Downs, Dibbling, Harwood Bellis all
Yeah.
missed through suspension. He's also got all these injuries. Rumours that Jan Bednarek that could potentially make the match day squad tomorrow. Will Smallbone's still out. Aaron Ramsdale, we obviously know about his injury. Paul Onuachu may be available, that he said for the game. But yeah, you can go on. Ross Stewart, I don't think we're going to see him anytime soon. He didn't say that we'd see him before Christmas. Adam Lallana's a couple of weeks away. He is really down to the bare bones. Oh yeah, and throw in Leslie Ugochukwu, who's can't play against his parent club. So all in all, boys, it's going to be real tough for him to certainly piece together a midfield. You'd have to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what formation do you even play? Are you going to really take a flyer on is Jan Bednarek going to be 100% in coming back? Do you really want to throw him in the deep end against an incredibly talented Chelsea team? If it was up to me, and I'm interested to hear what you think about it, Martin, if he goes to a back three, who's coming into that back three with Jack Stevens? I personally would put Charlie Taylor in at left centre back. A bit of experience, he's about 6 foot, so he's not small by any means. He's ball playing by all accounts. And then you're looking at one of the young guys, Nathan Wood or Ronnie Edwards, and thinking like these guys haven't even been given a sniff. Nathan Wood on the bench for one game against Wolves, I think. And, for those guys, they've got nothing to lose. And I'd really be interested to see them get some minutes. I'm interested to kind of know what would you think? Who would be your back three if we go with the back three against Chelsea?
Yeah, and he likes the back three, doesn't he? That's the big thing with him. I think he feels quite comfortable playing it. He's played it in recent weeks, hasn't he? And I think we play it quite well when you've got the right personnel. It's whether he rushes Bednarek back in tomorrow night and gets him back in the side, whether that's going to be a surprise inclusion. I hope that he is fit. I don't particularly want to see Kyle Walker-Peters in there playing in that role like he played the other night. I don't know if he felt that comfortable doing it. Nathan Woods, like you say, he's not had any minutes at all. He's not had a second of Premier League action, nor is Ronnie Edwards. I definitely don't think it'd be Ronnie Edwards. I'm pretty sure that he'd be loaned out. He will be loaned out in January, go and play Championship football somewhere. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how he does go about the defence and whether that will almost make him go with a back four because of who's available. But like I agree with you about Charlie Taylor not being involved, being totally excluded really from the match day squad in recent weeks. I don't think he's been involved since Leicester. Disappointed by that. There's a few people with theories on that. My best friend has a very good theory on that. And whether it's true, a couple of people, there's a young lad that comes onto my TikTok lives actually, and he said the other day, Josh Kemp was his name. He said his theory was that maybe Charlie Taylor said to Russell Martin, I was at Burnley last season. I see how it unfolded trying to play this style of football. It's going to get you relegated. And maybe he's just given his opinion on what happened at Burnley last season and said that to Martin. That was his theory. I'm not sure. There's just pie in the sky stuff, but there's a few theories around it. I like to see Charlie Taylor come back in because he's got the experience that you require.
Yeah.
Nathan Wood doesn't, and nor does Ronnie Edwards. That's what I do. If we're going to play the three, I'd bring Charlie Taylor into that. A bit out of the cold, but that's what I would do. The midfield worries me against Chelsea. What's he going to do in that midfield three? Because it'd be interesting to see if Chelsea rest anyone. But I watched them on Sunday, and boy, are they good in midfield. Lavia and Caicedo they're so good together. We know all about Romeo Lavia. He's a fantastic young man, isn't he? He'd get a good reception tomorrow night if he starts. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant player. And those two together, whether it's who he plays in there with them would be the interesting one. But who do we put in midfield? That's the big thing, boys. Who comes in there and does the job? Because Ryan Manning could potentially play central midfield because he can do it. Whether he's got the legs to play against these boys, though, geez.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a real we are so thin. It's incredible, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I think you made a good point about Manning there, though. I think, yeah, do you have Manning sit? Do you have Manning sit in that
Mm.
Flynn Downs role? If he doesn't quite have the legs for it, he can operate as a bit of a, hopefully, you would imagine, just a number 6, a DLP maybe. But then do
Yeah.
you want to lose Manning down that left-hand side? I'd argue he's actually been pretty decent on that kind of left wing back, left mid from an attacking point of view. And then you have to assume that Joe Aribo would come in and probably play that box to box, but then Russell likes to have Joe Aribo come off the bench for a bit of energy.
Mm.
Thank goodness Matty Fernandez is still going to be there at least, because
Yeah.
he's something else. And if there was ever a player to drag that midfield through something special, I think it would be him. But it's not looking good, Martin. It's looking very thin, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Chelsea have a big say in the title. I really do. When you look at how they set up at the weekend, it was really, really interesting because I like Neto. I think he's playing really well for him at the moment. Sancho played on the left. I think Neto played on the right. Fernandez Lavia in midfield, along with Casado, who kind of drifted in from a hybrid right into sort of like a central holding midfield role, like he does, and then it just gives the freedom to Palmer and Neto and Sanchez to get up the field. I would imagine that maybe he'd bring in Felix tomorrow night. Potentially he didn't start the weekend. Maybe he'd bring him in. He'd rotate a little bit. You would imagine Madueke didn't start the weekend, and he come in for Chelsea. But whatever they field is going to be a really good side. I think it'd be a hell of a test for us, don't you? I just think we just need to give it our all and give give the fans something to walk home with a little bit of positivity, and just not get like we said a minute ago. We haven't got totally mauled by anyone this season, and hopefully Enzo Maresca doesn't inflict on us what he did last season in the Championship.
Yeah, no, exactly. Listen, I think all we can ask for out of our team right now as a basis is just to go out there and give a good account of ourselves. And I almost think we will, because of how stretched this team is at the moment, because you're going to have players there who are going to be inserted into, who knows, potentially, someone like maybe one of the young guys does come in. Maybe Kalmudin Sulemana gets a run in the team, starting or something. You're going to have players there who will understand the assignment and will understand that they've been thrown into the deep end right now because of the injuries. And I think they'll play really hard. Will there be mistakes? Probably. Will there be, lapses of judgment? Who knows? But I do think that, and as we've seen against the quote unquote big teams this season many times, like we've given a good account for ourselves against Arsenal, against City. We took Liverpool to the very depths, and I don't think Chelsea would be any different. And I think almost with the amount of injuries we have, players will really understand how, just imagine if we walk out there with a point. Now that is a good point, walking out of Stamford Bridge at the moment with anything. So I don't know. All I can ask, and I think you'll agree, is that just go out and give a good account for yourselves, understand the assignment, show the aggression, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it gives a few people an opportunity. Right, time for some score predictions. I'm going to let you go first, Boise, and then I'm going to throw mine in there. But yeah, your score prediction for Southampton Chelsea.
I'm going to go for 3-1 Chelsea win after Saints go 1-0 up and do so basically the Arsenal result. I'm going to go for 3-1 Chelsea. Saints go 1-0 up. I'm going to go for an Adam Armstrong goal because I think he's been playing really well recently. And I think the performance will be there. I think, like I just kind of alluded to, I think you'll kind of get your classic sort of, the playing out from the back will unfortunately be punished. I can see Cole Palmer kind of running us ragged at times, to be honest, which is a bit concerning. Nicholas Jackson's also in incredible form. So I think we'll lose, but I do think that we will see a performance out of those players. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. I'm going to go something very similar. Interesting you talk about Cole Palmer. Dion Dublin on Match of the Day 2 described Tyler Dibbling to a very similar player to of what Cole Palmer plays like. And I thought that was to put Dibbling in the same bracket and speak about him with Cole Palmer. I just thought it was a really big compliment to Tyler Dibbling. So I hope Tyler was tuned in, because that will give you massive belief to be spoke about in the same light as him is pretty mega. I think we will miss Tyler massively. I think it'll be 4-0 Chelsea. I'm going to go 4-0 Chelsea victory. I think it will be very tough, and then we'll move on to Aston Villa at the weekend. I'll be previewing that on the channel later on this week. We're going to do a review of the Chelsea game on Thursday, and I'll be looking ahead to Aston Villa's the trip to Aston Villa even on the weekend. And I'm also going to have a Aston Villa podcaster joining me as well. Luke's going to join me from up the Villa, so that should be very good. So stay tuned for that. It'll be available to download as well on all the major platforms if you're listening on the podcast. Right, a bit of Saints news now, boys. I wanted to talk to you about a few things Russell Martin mentioned in his presser this week. He spoke about Shea Charles and how well he'd done this season. He was asked whether there was the option to recall him in January, and he did confirm there is the option to recall Shea Charles if they wanted to in January. He's been really impressed with his development this year, and it was everything that the club wanted, everything that the player wanted as well. And he said the only reason they're bringing him back is if he was going to walk into the team and start playing week in, week out. My personal opinion for anyone tuning in, I don't think he will get recalled. I think he will stay at Sheffield Wednesday for the remainder of the season, and they'll let him develop. Boys, are you much of the thought? Would you bring him back, Shea Charles?
I wouldn't bring him back, based purely because I don't think he'd come in and do really well, because he's enjoying an incredible vein of form at the moment. I wouldn't bring him back because I wouldn't want to stunt his development and bring him into this negative situation at the moment. Kind of similar to almost, not exactly similar, but Jan Bednarek being recalled halfway through the relegation season 2 years ago, and it's like, what really was the point? Because he was coming into a very poor situation. That was almost like, it's looking pretty bleak at the moment, right? But for Shea Charles, he's out on loan, enjoying this brilliant spell, getting minutes that he wouldn't have even thought of last season. Do you really want to bring him back out of that environment? I wouldn't. Also, he doesn't walk into this team if Flynn Downs doesn't play for some reason. Charles will get 1 or 2 games and Downs will be back in that team. We know how much the manager loves Flynn and how important he is. So I wouldn't bring him back. I don't think he'll come back. And I think that he's a really good player to look forward to next season. If that's in the Premier League, great. But if it's in the Championship, that's a player we've got on our hands right there. I just hope it's not another Nathan Teller situation, to be honest.
Yeah, we had that Nathan Teller situation where he went away and did absolutely incredible. Boys, it's been brilliant chatting to you. Just before I go, I've just whilst we're recording this show, I've jumped onto X, and I've just seen the club have put out a little video of training at the ground tonight. They've trained at the stadium this evening ahead of the Chelsea game tomorrow. Yanni B has been spotted in amongst those training videos. So great news on that. Hopefully he's fit and could potentially play a part. I also see that the football club have launched something new as well. They've launched their own in-house creative design studio called Turf. Something very new they're going to be doing. Looks interesting as well. Worth going and check it out. Head over to the club's website, guys. There's something new. They're looking to build more than just a football club for sure. They're looking to bring money in other ways, and that's how you have to survive as a business at the top end of the game these days. Many have hotels and whatnot around the stadiums that they're looking to obviously build the business off the field as well, which is brilliant to see. Boise, it's been great having you on the show this evening. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Football Martin channel. It's been an absolute pleasure. My name is Martin Sanders, and my guest today was Adam Boyce. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all again very soon.